All right, so first of all, I'm going to start off with just sharing the news of what happened with Trey Reed for those who don't know about the situation. So, Trey Reed was a student at, I'm forgetting the school's name, but I'll have it plastered here. It's a school in Mississippi, and he was found hung from a tree. Now, people, rightfully so, if you ask me, initially thought that the initial reports of Trey's suicide, and yes, I am going to use, I don't censor words like that. I don't give a damn about YouTube. YouTube's already, there's no point in a channel like mine that's already shadow banned, censored, all this other stuff to play by YouTube's rules or algorithmic AI algorithm rules and shit, when I'm already, it's not going to benefit me if I do play by the rules anyway, because they still going to shadow ban me. So we speak freely over here, and we speak like actual human beings. I'm not going to say unalived himself. I'm not going to blur out, words like suicide, especially in serious situations like this. If this fucks up the algorithm even more, even me cursing this early on within the video, so be it. But I got to say what I got to say. And those who see it, will see it. And those who don't see it, won't see it. It is what it is. But I got to put this message out there. All right. So with that being said, again, Trey Reed, the initial reports state that Trey Reed committed suicide. Those, myself included, were very skeptical of the initial reports because of the long-standing history of Mississippi in general with lynchings of black people in general. So, like I stated before, the skepticism, although I believe is, only misguided in the sense of I don't believe that foul play. I don't believe foul play was at play here, and I'll get into that. But the skepticism, for whatever reason, not even for whatever reason, there are legitimate reasons as to why black people, or just people in general, are very skeptical of the initial reports of a suicide. His family has every right to question it as well. Okay, and if anybody out there in Mississippi, whether that be the school board, whether that be the actual school that Reed went to, whether it be the entire state of Mississippi or any police department or any state in general, right? If you want to change the perception of your history, because the skepticism is coming based off of your history of lynching black men and women, all right? Feeding black children to alligators and shit, right? Burning them in churches and all that. This is your history. And if you want that history to not continue to stain you, you would then try to do anything to fix that and rectify that, but you haven't. You haven't. You've doubled down on that history. You denied that history. You've made efforts within your colleges and universities and even grade level schools or lower level schools to get that curriculum out of the schools because you don't want people to learn about said history. That does not preach anything of we're trying to move on from it. It preaches we're trying to hide from this history. So again, the skepticism is very much, although I do believe, again, it's misguided in the sense of I don't believe Reed was targeted by other people at all. I do believe he did commit suicide. But the skepticism is there for a reason, all right? Now, for those who are listening or watching or whatever you're doing, and you're like, well, why do you believe that Reed ultimately did take his own life? Well, because, the autopsy is put out, that Mississippi has put out, stating that there was no foul play. I understand that Reed's family are conducting their own independent, they're hiring out. They're not doing it themselves, but they're hiring out an independent look into the death of their loved one as well, to see if there was indeed foul play. And if that independent study comes out and any more information comes out that disproves my take here, I would gladly make a video. I would gladly go on any other social media that I made this point on and say, hey, I was wrong. I would gladly do so. But I'm not going to sit here and because I'm a black man, because Trey Reed was a black man, he has a black family and all these, and because of, again, the warranted skepticism of what's happening and what has happened in Mississippi and just in general, I'm not going to automatically say that's the case. That's an easy cop out. There are places, I forgot what country is now deemed the happiest country in the world, right? That doesn't mean that nobody commits suicide there. It just means whatever the hell that it means. What's the criteria to fit a happy place, right? All that subjective, and that's not here for this video. But, as far as just why I believe it's the case is because the information that was presented, and I'm gonna have an article down in the description box below, the USA Today article. It's not one article. It's not an article that I fetched out per se. It's an article that I saw posted on Facebook. Someone posted it on Facebook, and they had something. They shared their thoughts on the situation, but didn't necessarily point out the article, or I felt like they just picked the article and then posted it. They didn't read it themselves. I will talk more about that as well. There's a few places I'm going in this video, so try to keep up if you can, right? No attention spans are fucking minuscule, but if you don't have a minuscule one, or if you want to retrain your brain to even listen to longer form videos and stuff, try to keep up, and I will do my best to try to make sure I'm not rambling as much as I tend to do. Now, anyways, as far as, again, my thoughts, the autopsies, I believe there's 2 that's been done now, aside from the independent one. Don't quote me on that number, but I don't think the results or the independent one has been done yet. I did, see somewhere that Colin Kaepernick wants to fund the independent study that Reed's family is, wants to do. And I think that's great. So shout out to him once again for doing something noble, in my opinion. But until we get those results, again, I'm not going to scream. And until those results, again, disprove what I believe, I am not going to scream there is foul play, right? Now, the reason why I say so is because, and I keep saying that, let me actually get into the reason, right? Told you, I'm struggling to not ramble. You struggling to listen. I apologize, but no, for real. In the article, you will find out, and this is news to me. I read the entire article, and apparently, the day before he, hours it seemed before he committed suicide, he was on the phone. I believe it was the president of the African American Student Association, right? Student union there at the university that they both go to, or Reed went to, said that he saw him on the phone arguing with somebody. This somebody, or whoever it was, there was no mention of it. It was just they found him on the phone. They saw him hours before the suicide arguing with somebody, right? Throughout that night as well, they saw Reed sitting pretty much in the general area of where his body was found. He was sitting there, and again, the president, along with a friend of his, walked by Reed, and he said he looked noticeably upset, not just obviously arguing on the phone with somebody, but even after that, he was just sitting there alone, and he looked noticeably upset. So he said they went over to him and they asked him if he was doing okay. They said Reed's response was he looked up at him, didn't say anything, but you can tell in his face that he was still visibly upset, and then looked down at his phone. And then they walked away because he was saying he didn't want to pry. He didn't want to pretty much ask anything. He was like, he's still upset. Let me give him the space to cool off. And they went on and they were going to get something to eat. And I believe this is around like 2 a.m. or so, right? They were going to get something to eat. So they went on with their business, and they just left Trey there to sit, right? So that's what happened. Hours later, they get back to campus. They hear something about somebody, found hung from a tree with red hair, right? Now, he said he thought about Trey, right? Trey apparently had a red accessory on, like maybe a red hat, maybe a red band. It was the article, again, linked in the description box below, just put red accessory, right? Or at least that's what the fellow student said, he was wearing a red accessory, but his hair was not red. So he was told, or it was reported, that so-and-so has red hair, right? Or read, so-and-so was found hung from a tree and this person has red hair, right? And he's like, I don't know anyone with red hair, but I did see someone within that general area with something, wearing something red on their head, and that person was Trey Reed. So he says that, and pretty much that's the one statement that they have from somebody who, or one of the last individuals, if not the last individual, who had an interaction with Trey Reed before the suicide, right? So that happens. We don't know much about what happened. We don't know, again, who he was on the phone with. We don't know what the matters were. He didn't necessarily say, he being the president of the AA union, right? He didn't necessarily say, Trey was saying this and stuff. It wasn't, and he didn't say, again, who he was on the phone with. I don't think he knew this information, right? But he did say he was arguing with somebody, right? And if whatever this argument was about, this may have pushed him to the edge for him to feel as though this is it. And this is what I'm going to do to escape this situation. Whatever stressful situation it was, that clearly had him in a depressive state to the point where he was sitting alone in the dark around 2 a.m. Or so, right? He would not respond to people who was trying to help him out, or at least showed some type of concern, or he did respond, but just not verbally. He showed it within his face. Also, he was saying from a distance they were looking at him. I forgot to mention, and he looked like he was kicking in, like just kicking the air and punching the air and things of that nature. Like he was just very much verbally expressing his frustration, right? And they being, again, the president and his friend, they were saying the president was the one who did most of the speaking, or all of the speaking, right? But he was saying that he saw him do these things, right? Pretty much express his anger via actions, not necessarily with words outside of the argument he had on the phone. After that, it was just kicking the air, punching the air, and then the angry facial, upset facial expression he had once they asked him if he was doing okay. Okay? All of these things you might not want to believe would be, a reason for why someone or things someone would want to do before committing the act. All right, and that's the one censor I guess I'm gonna use, but committing an act of suicide. But to me, based off of what I've read here within the USA Today article, again, the same article you can read yourself by clicking the link in the description box below. Based off all of that, it does seem as though, no, there really wasn't foul play. If it seems as though that he was on the phone with whoever he was on the phone with, and this was not a pleasant conversation. This conversation may have, when until these records come out, this phone conversation, these phone records come out, if again they ever do, we can't assume anything. We can't assume that, you know, this was a one-off conversation. This may have been a conversation that, you know, he got news about something that he was hoping was good news and it really wasn't, or just something that was happening prior to the days leading up to his suicide, right? We can't assume anything until we get more information. Okay, we can't, not even assuming that he was lynched, you know, by an angry mob or something. People are equating this right-wing protest in support of Charlie Kirk or whatever that happened days before the lynching, and trying to correlate the two. But, you know, as someone who, no, I don't believe in coincidences, right? But I do believe that two things can be true. One being that there was a right wing, we're gonna ride for Charlie Kirk, you know, whatever the case is. There was that type of protest going on. Also, during that moment, what could also happen is someone going through some very horrible shit to the point that drove them to the point of wanting to commit suicide. And both of those things having nothing to do with one another. And the only correlation people are bringing up is Charlie Kirk supporters, racist, black man, hung, must be, no. Unless, once again, more information comes out pointing to that, we can't assume that is the case. I understand, again, people jumping at the bit to say that's the case based off of Mississippi's history. Mississippi, anybody from Mississippi, anybody from that university out there, you can't really be too upset. Now, accusing people of doing wrongdoing is messed up, even if they have a history of doing wrongdoing. Especially if whatever you're accusing them of doing something, they didn't actually do that thing. Let's hold them accountable for the actions they've actually done, right? Now, you know, that glare is shining on me. I love the sun. It is what it is, right? But, you know, it could have been a situation where a protest did happen on that campus or whatever the case is, right? Or Charlie Kirk parade, whatever the case is, right? That could have happened days before that, but that does not mean that the two are, you know, centered together, you know? Charlie Kirk literally just lost his life as well, you know? It wasn't to suicide, but again, yeah. So it's like, obviously, you know, these things have been happening nationwide. There was a Charlie Kirk visual here in Boston, you know, and I believe there was two of them that happened. I saw one. I didn't go to one. I didn't go to them. I wrote about my thoughts on Charlie Kirk. I'll leave that in the description box below. And I talked about it, you know, on my shorts channel and stuff. Probably leave that in the description box below as well. But I'm all Charlie Kirked out. I ain't trying to say nothing else more about that man. I said what I said. It is what it is, right? You know? But as far as this situation here goes, yeah, based off of the evidence that I'm seeing so far right now, I don't believe Mississippi is lying or hiding anything this time when they say there is no foul play within this hanging of a black man on a fruit tree. Okay? Now, I said there was other things I wanted to bring up within this video here, and well, I'm doing so. But at this point in time, if you just want to know my thoughts, you feel free to log off. It's been 19 minutes. You watched this video long enough. But if you want to watch the entire thing, I appreciate you. Another thing I want to bring up in response to just this situation is just the trauma response, okay? I brought up again the people jumping to conclusions based off of the history, the ugly history of lynchings in Mississippi in general. So I understand that. I already addressed that. But there is another trauma response that I saw on Facebook, and not surprising at all, on Facebook of all places. But the individual who shared this article the USA Today article that, again, I will have posted, that individual is the one who introduced me, not personally, but they posted on Facebook and I saw it. So I took it, I read it, their post and everything. And they acknowledged the suicide of not Charlie Kirk, of Trey Reed. They acknowledged that suicide as well, but they blamed the family, right? Now, their reasoning, and I'm going to paraphrase their words, and I'm not going to say their name, but I am going to detail their story. And first of all, you put it on Facebook, so it is what it is, right? If I didn't say it, if I didn't expose people to it, other people got exposed people to it. You know, there is that. Also, they were spreading misinformation as well. And, well, if you're going to spread a misinformation about this very serious situation, I don't give a damn about me posting your personal information on Facebook. The same that was on Facebook because, first of all, you posted it on there. And no, I'm not saying it will give me the right to do so, or per se, like it will make me, doing the right thing by posting your personal information on YouTube or anywhere else simply because you posted it on Facebook. But Reed has a family, and you decided to use his death as a way to get your shit off about your family and get your shit off about your thoughts about the black family unit, right? All of that. And I say what's misinformation. I'm not saying what happened to this woman was misinformation. I'm saying the fact that she said she posted an article, and the first thing she says in her post is the family was the one who pretty much hung him. Lady, that's misinformation, and they can sue your ass for doing so. And in fact, I kind of hope the family does take your ass to court for that. I'm just going to flat out say it. It is what it is. I kind of hope that someone from Reed's family sees that your post of you blaming them for the murder of their loved one, essentially calling it a murder, not a suicide, right? And saying they are the ones who did it, and then going off to spout your shit about your family and how your brother committed suicide because your family was unbearable to him. Right? Call me fucked up, call me all this other shit, but I'm just returning ugly ass energy, it seems. And yeah, let me take a sip real quick though. So this woman on Facebook, again, who shall remain nameless, posted the USA Today article that I have posted in the description box below. She mentions how she says, ha. She didn't say ha, but it gave very much ha vibes, right? So she's like, ha. It was the family who killed Trey Reed. It wasn't, some racist out there in Mississippi who did it. It was the family who drove him to insanity to the point to where he hung himself. And then again, after she said that, she went on to tell the story of what happened to her brother. She mentions her cousin as well, talking about how that same family drew a rift between her and her cousin of hers that she used to be real tight with, and because of this toxic black family unit and stuff. And at the end of her little rant, she went off to talk about how fucked up the black family unit is, right? Again, what I'm not questioning is her experience within her family. I'm not even questioning her take on the black family unit. It's definitely not all black families who are that fucked up to their own blood, but it's definitely a truth that needs to be talked about. But not in a situation like this where there is, one, again, no proof at all. Because I read the article, because I obviously read her post first before clicking on the article. And then I was like, let me not just take her word for it, because it is fucking Facebook. It's social media in general, right? But it's Facebook of all places. And we know misinformation is, that's the home of misinformation. So anyways, right? There's other places, of course. Don't think because your favorite app is not Facebook and you're on Reddit or X or Instagram or whatever, there's no misinformation there. Nah, it's there too, nigga. It's just not on the level of Facebook, or it's almost on the level of a Facebook. But Facebook is still king misinformation, right? But anyways, right? Or queen misinformation. Anyways, let me stop the jokes. Anyways, so I read her post, and like I said, the post read, it's longer than what I said. I just paraphrased it for y'all, right? For brevity reasons, because it's already 25 minutes of this video. But, the post reads as I said it does, right? I was like, okay, let me click on the article and read for myself to see if any more new developments on this situation here, right? So I click on the article. The only mention of the family is what I told y'all. The family has decided to conduct their own independent look into the death of their loved one. That's it. It doesn't mention that the argument that Trey had on the phone was even with family. It doesn't mention who he was arguing with, but it definitely didn't say Trey was on the phone with his mama, his brother, his sister, whoever, family member, right? It says, again, and it's a quote saying from the fellow classmate, the fellow African-American student person, saying, hey, I saw him on the phone arguing with somebody hours before he committed suicide. Then I saw him again punching and kicking the air after that. And then I saw him sitting by himself. And then I went up to him and asked him if he was all right. He didn't answer me with his voice, but he looked upset when he looked right at me and looked down on his phone. So then I gave him space. And then later on, I got the news about him, right? That's literally the quote. And that's literally the only mention of, again, if we're talking about the argument. He didn't say, I heard him talking to a family member. He said, I just heard him on the phone. That could be with anyone who had contact with Trey Reed. That could have been a job. That could have been a friend. That could have been a lover, possibly. That could have been a family member. That could have been maybe the bank. Maybe the school admission saying, listen, you can't afford here, we kicking you out. It could have been anybody. It could have been anybody. But this woman jumped to the conclusion and say that it was family based off of her own personal experience, apparently with her brother ended up committing suicide because of family issues, right? No evidence at all. And again, no mention in the article, which you can read for yourself. If I missed it, let me know, because I asked her the same thing. And of course, it was crickets. But if I missed it, let me know if there's any mention of a phone call with a family member before the events that took place. Because when I read the article, and I looked over it twice. Now, granted, I looked over it twice earlier on this morning. You know what I'm saying? I may have missed some things, but when I look over things more than once, I typically don't miss important details like that. And or something like that saying, yeah, he was on the phone with his family, especially when I'm looking at new information. All right. And that was new information to me, because all the information that has been put out was the fact of, black man found hung from a tree. Black man found hung from a tree. Protests happened days ago. That was all the information that was put out until I read that USA Today article. All right. Now, with that being said, this woman blamed his family. There's no evidence of that. If, like I said at the beginning of the video, right? Or somewhere toward the beginning, if it does come out that he was on the phone with fam, And no, they didn't hang him per se, but situations with a family led him to the point of wanting to commit suicide. I will come back and say, well, and I'll even come back to that post if she even keeps it up, and say, well, you know what? I still think that you were trauma dumping, but I see where you're coming from now because the evidence have showed this, right? But right now, we don't have any evidence showing that, one, foul play was the case, and two, family, him arguing with family was, if he was even on the phone with family, and that is what drove him over the edge to do what he did. And I just want to say this final message really is why I'm talking about this is because we meaning you, not me, because I don't do this bullshit, but we need to stop. Our trauma does not give us an excuse to then lie and put ourselves in situations that have zero to do with us, or say something happened within real life situations that affect other people and their family and stuff, and then say, oh, well, this is what happened because this is what happened within, my family or my experience. And that's not the case for, obviously, Trey Reed and his family. And unless you all are related, which, again, this woman, she didn't have the Reed last name. Not saying everybody with the same last name is related. We get that, but she didn't have the last name Reed. She also did not mention anything, because I feel as though usually when people come out, especially high profile cases like this, people will come out and say, this is my, cousin or whatever, right? She had no mention at all in saying that she was related to Trey Reed. Her only relation to it was a situation to where she mentions, again, her brother committed suicide based off of family trauma. And again, these things, it's the only apples to apples is black man, both committed suicide, right? Other than that, there's no comparison. One is a story of family trauma that led this black man to do something. Another one is we don't know what the reason is, but we can't assume it was family trauma or anything else until information comes out. If it does, that led to him doing what he did. And with all the misinformation that goes on the internet in general, especially when it comes to situations like this, it's very dangerous when we meaning you, not me again, but when we start inserting some more BS simply because we are having a trauma response, simply because we don't want to believe the truth, simply because we want to go based off of history of these states, of these police departments and things of that nature. And again, like I said earlier, there is these Mississippi or anywhere else, these places have no one to blame but themselves. It's their history. They did those acts. They cannot be upset to the point to where they're like, and again, nothing that they've done in the recent years and of the present years have shown. And when I say nothing I've seen, right? If there are efforts being made to try to make sure that, the history isn't, one, repeated, and two, that they want to turn over a new leaf per se, well, those efforts need to be made louder. I'm not saying simply because they're not as loud as the history that they're not happening. But if the only thing we know of is the ugly history, you need to make the efforts to, again, like I said, turn over a new leaf. You need to make that louder. And I haven't seen it. Not in Mississippi, at least, right? So with that being said, yeah, your little trauma, releases. You it's up to you to get over that. that trauma. And I know something that's traumatic as probably losing a loved one due to suicide it's crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like it's and I'm not saying crazy to be like insulting or try to make light of this situation. If I was to make light of this situation, I'd be censoring all my words. I would have censored suicide. I would have censored all this other stuff. And I know people, we gotta make money. We gotta make money. My stuff is monetized. You're not. You don't have to. If and I've said this once, and I'm gonna say it again here, and then I'm gonna end off this video because it's been on long enough, right? If the money aspect is more important to you than getting the information out there that you claim to really care about, and then just say that. Just say that. Just say that, because we'll just verbally say that. So the people not like me who are watching you know, because not everyone is going to be as intuitive as me and can pick up on that, right? Not calling anybody stupid or anything. I'm just simply saying not everyone's going to be able to pick up on that as I would be able to do so. I'm not the only one who is capable of doing so. There are others out there who are very much capable of seeing, okay, this person clearly cares more about the money than the actual reporting of this story. So let me just take that information and move accordingly. But there are people out there who are going to think you care. And then they're going to think, or you care more about, the reporting than the money aspect, as if you don't have other videos that are generating income for you, as if you don't have any other forms of generating income. You can take a loss. You can take a one-hit loss, you know what I'm saying? If my shit was monetized, right, and, this video ended up being demonetized, and I had other videos that were still monetized, I just be like, hey, y'all, go watch a video that is, monetized, and, keep watching, keep running up those numbers on that. You know what I'm saying? Or whatever the case is, right? But that's what I have to say about this situation. It's all sad. It's all messed up. And again, until more information comes out, I won't have anything else to say. I said everything I said here. If information again comes out disproving everything that I believe is to be true here, I will gladly, and when I say gladly, I don't mean like I'm just going to be happy. It's going to be a cheerful one. I'm just saying that I'm going to be bold enough to say, hey, I was wrong in this video. I was wrong in that tweet. I was wrong in that post, whatever the case is, and because I was presented with new information that disproved what I initially thought. Here are my thoughts now. Or here's the new information that disproved what I was saying before. But until then, yeah, this is it as far as my thoughts on the situation. So if you were curious to know, you got it. And if you don't care, why are you here?